On March 12, 2019, a Tuesday that began like any other in the small town of Moretas in the Serra do Mar region. The weather was slightly cloudy, with mild temperatures typical of the approaching autumn in the area, rich in preserved Atlantic forest. Paulo Ricardo Oliveira, 34, a forestry engineer, his wife Marina Campos Oliveira, 32, a biology teacher, and their daughter Julia, just 6 years old, were planning a hike along the famous Itupava Trail, a historic path that connects the coast to the Paraná Plateau. Paulo was known for his interest in ecological trails and often took the family on nature walks. Marina shared this passion and saw the trails as an opportunity to teach little Julia about Brazil's flora and fauna. The couple had been living in Curitiba for 8 years, but they often spent a few days at a small inn in Moretas during long weekends or holidays. On that Tuesday, they decided to take advantage of an unexpected day off for Paulo to explore a lesser-known section of the Itupava Trail, known as the Caminho das Pedras, Path of Stones. According to the visitor log at the Morumbi State Park, Paulo, Marina, and Julia started the hike at 10:47 a.m. The couple told park ranger Antonio Pereira that they planned to walk just the middle section of the trail with a return time set for 4:30 p.m. They carried a backpack with water, snacks, insect repellent, and a small first aid kit, basic equipment for a hike that, under normal conditions, would not present great challenges for experienced adults like them. They seemed well prepared and excited, Antonio Pereira would later report. Mr. Paulo even joked, saying they would return in time for a coffee and cake at the inn. The little girl was especially excited, talking about the birds she wanted to see. However, at 5:45 p.m., the alarm was raised among the park staff. The couple and the child had not returned, and the sky was already beginning to darken. In that region, dusk comes quickly, especially in the denser areas of the forest. A call was made to the inn where they were staying, but no one had returned. It was at 6:37 p.m. that the first search team was formed, consisting of 3 park rangers equipped with flashlights and radios. They followed the trail, calling out the names of the couple and the child. By then, it was fully dark, and a light drizzle began, making the search even more difficult. Then the unexpected happened. Little Julia was found alone near the trail entrance, about 800 meters from the park ranger station. The child was wet from the drizzle, with some scratches on her arms and legs, but no serious injuries. She was in shock, trembling, and repeating a phrase that would intrigue investigators in the months to come. They slept on the ground. They slept on the ground. Immediately, Julia was taken to the nearest medical post, while the search for Paulo and Marina intensified. The fire department was called, and a more robust operation began to be set up for the next morning. The news of the couple's disappearance spread quickly through the small town of Moretas and soon reached Curitiba. Family members were contacted and immediately traveled to the region. Julia's maternal grandmother, Helena Campos, took over the care of her granddaughter while the search continued. "It was the worst phone call I've ever received in my life," Mrs. Helena would later say. "When I arrived at the hospital and saw my granddaughter repeating that phrase about sleeping on the ground, I felt that something terrible had happened." If you want to follow more cases like this, which shake society and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any investigations. With the dawn of March 13, 2019, a massive search operation was launched. The Paraná Fire Department mobilized 23 men, including specialists in closed forest rescue. The military police provided a helicopter for aerial surveillance of the area, and volunteers from nearby cities joined the efforts. The Itupava Trail and its surroundings were divided into sectors, and teams were assigned to each area. "It's like looking for a needle in a haystack," explained Lieutenant Carlos Mendonca, the operation coordinator. The Serra do Mar's vegetation is extremely dense, with ravines, valleys, and rock formations that can hide people even a few meters away from rescuers. The first day of searches ended without concrete results. Only an empty water bottle and a scarf, identified by Marina's family as hers, were found. Both items were about 3.5 kilometers from the trailhead in an area known as the Mirante das Bromeleias, Bromeleiad Lookout. Meanwhile, investigators from the civil police began gathering the first testimonies. The most important, of course, would be that of little Julia. However, the child psychologist Dr. Luciana Martins, who was assigned to the case, recommended caution. The child was in shock, displaying symptoms of acute trauma, Dr. Martins explained. Forcing a detailed testimony could cause more psychological harm. We needed to respect her processing time. In the following days, Julia underwent light therapy sessions, during which small fragments of information began to emerge. In addition to the already known phrase, "They slept on the ground," the girl mentioned hearing water, seeing men of the forest, and a path of stones that fell. Children at this age often mix reality and fantasy, especially in traumatic situations, explained Dr. Martins. But each fragment could contain valuable information. The investigation team decided to focus on the area of the trail near waterfalls, interpreting the sound of water mentioned by Julia. As for the men of the forest, two initial theories emerged. They could have been other hikers that the couple encountered on the trail, or, in a darker hypothesis, possible attackers. On the fourth day of the search, a disturbing discovery was made. About 5 kilometers from the trail entrance, in a difficult-to-access area known as the Fenda das Pedras, crevice of stones, the couple's backpack and a child's sneaker identified as belonging to Julia were found. The contents of the backpack were intact. There was still food, the first aid kit, and 2 turned-off cell phones belonging to Paulo and Marina. "It was strange," commented Sergeant Oliveira, responsible for the sector where the items were found. "It didn't seem like there had been a struggle or that the backpack was abandoned in a hurry. It was as if it had been carefully placed there." The phones were immediately sent for forensic analysis. Unfortunately, Marina's phone was dead, and Paulo's, although still charged, was protected by a password. Investigators would need judicial authorization to access its content, which would delay the acquisition of potential clues. Meanwhile, another line of investigation began to be explored. Local residents reported the presence of a group of illegal palm heart extractors in the region. The illegal extraction of Jussara palm, an endangered species, is a recurring problem in the Serra do Mar region of Paraná. The so-called palmiteros, palm heart extractors, are known for using violence when confronted. "It's a possibility we can't dismiss," said Detective Roberto Andrade, in charge of the case. Paulo, as a forestry engineer, might have identified the illegal activity and inadvertently confronted the extractors. This theory gained traction when a local resident, who requested to remain anonymous, reported seeing strange activity in the region on the afternoon of the disappearance. "I saw 3 men carrying something heavy on a tarp, going down a secondary trail. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but after hearing about the missing couple, I started wondering if it was connected." On the 6th day of the search, hopes of finding Paulo and Marina alive began to fade. The area covered by the teams had already exceeded 20 kilometers, including not only the Itupava Trail, but also alternative paths and dense forest areas. It was at this point that new information emerged. The analysis of the last photos taken with Paulo's phone, recovered by the forensic team, showed images of rock formations not initially recognized by local guides. After a careful examination, one of the more experienced park rangers identified the location, an area known as the Gruta dos Jesuítas, Jesuits' Cave, situated off the main trail, about 7 kilometers from the entrance. "This is an area that's not part of the official tourist route," explained the ranger. "It's difficult and dangerous to access, with a risk of landslides. I don't understand why they would have gone there, especially with a small child." This discovery redirected the search efforts. If the couple had ventured to the Jesuits' cave, they would have faced extremely rough terrain, with deep ravines and unstable rock formations, especially dangerous on a rainy day like that. At the same time, the investigation team was finally able to access Paulo's phone. The last messages sent by him were to a colleague at 1:22 p.m. that day. "We found something amazing here. Looks like an unmapped cave. I'll take pictures and show you when I get back." This message supported the theory that the couple had deviated from the main trail in search of additional explorations. A risky behavior, but consistent with Paulo's adventurous profile, as described by friends and family. However, a disturbing element was found in the browsing history on Paulo's phone. Searches for indigenous legends, Serra do Mar, Terra, Guarani ritual, sleep on the ground meaning, and sacred caves Paraná were conducted 2 days before the disappearance. These searches suggested a specific interest that went beyond simple recreational hiking. On the 10th day of the search, when hopes of finding the couple alive were minimal, a new lead emerged from an unexpected testimony. Carlos Mendes, an anthropology professor at the Federal University of Paraná and an expert on indigenous cultures of the southern region, voluntarily approached the police station after reading about the case in the newspapers. "The searches found on Paulo's phone and the phrase repeated by the child caught my attention," Mendes explained. "There's an old Guarani legend about those who sleep on the ground, or Ev o Cava in Guarani. According to the tradition, they are guardian spirits of sacred places who take those who disturb certain ritual sites beneath the earth." The anthropologist explained that there were historical records of caves and grottos in the Serra do Mar that had been used by the Guarani for sacred rituals. Some of these caves contained rock paintings and artifacts that had never been properly studied by modern archaeology. "Paulo contacted me about 3 weeks ago," Mendes revealed, showing emails exchanged with the forestry engineer. He had found references to an unmapped cave during his research on the region's flora. He was excited about the possibility of having discovered a new archaeological site. This revelation completely changed the direction of the investigation. If Paulo had deliberately sought out this cave, he may have taken his family to an extremely dangerous and unknown area, driven by the excitement of discovery. A new search operation was organized, this time with the participation of cave exploration experts. Based on the information provided by Professor Mendes and the last coordinates extracted from Paulo's phone GPS, the team headed to a remote area about 9 kilometers northeast of the main trail entrance. On March 24th, after nearly 6 hours of hiking through extremely rugged terrain, the search team located the entrance of a cave partially hidden by vegetation. On the rock next to the entrance, markings were identified that seemed to be faded, time-worn paintings, possibly the indigenous inscriptions that Paulo had been searching for. The cave entrance was narrow, allowing only one person to pass at a time, and descended almost vertically for about 4 meters. The cave explorers, equipped with ropes and proper lighting, began descending with extreme caution. What they found inside the cave left the entire team in shock. About 12 meters from the entrance, in a small natural chamber, lay the bodies of Paulo and Marina, side by side, as if they were sleeping. There were no obvious signs of violence, injury, or struggle. The expressions on their faces were serene, almost peaceful. It seemed like they had just laid down there voluntarily, described Lieutenant Rodrigo Alves, the first to arrive at the bodies. They were holding hands in a natural position, as if they had simply fallen asleep. Preliminary forensic analysis, conducted on-site due to the difficulties of immediate body removal, could not determine the cause of death. There were no external injuries, visible fractures, or signs of animal attacks. The initial hypothesis was asphyxiation by natural gases accumulated in the cave, a phenomenon known to occur in caves with poor ventilation. The discovery of the bodies partially confirmed the testimony of little Julia. Her parents had indeed slept on the ground, but how the child had managed to escape and how she had reached the trail entrance, nearly 10 kilometers away, remained a mystery. A partial answer came during a new therapy session with Julia, now more recovered from the initial trauma. With the help of drawings and dolls, the child was able to communicate additional fragments of what happened. Daddy and Mommy wanted to see the house of the ancient Indians. We found a hole in the rock. Daddy went down first, then Mommy. They told me to wait. I waited a long time. I called, but they didn't answer. I looked into the hole and saw them, sleeping on the ground. I called louder, but they didn't wake up. I got scared. According to the child's account, interpreted by psychologists, she had waited for some time. Then, frightened by the lack of response from her parents, she tried to retrace the path they had taken. Lost, she wandered through the forest until she was found by a man of the forest who led her close to the entrance of the trail. He had a big beard and a hat. He said he would go get help from Mommy and Daddy, but that I should wait on the main path. This description raised the possibility that a local resident, or even one of the palm heart extractors mentioned earlier, had found the lost child, and, out of compassion or fear of involvement, led her to a place where she would be easily found. Leave. A comment if you believe that all missing people deserve to be found, and that the truth should never be abandoned. The full autopsy of Paulo and Marina's bodies, completed on April 2, 2019, revealed the truth about what happened in the cave. The medical report showed high levels of carbon dioxide and methane in the lung tissues, confirming the hypothesis of asphyxiation from gases. It's a phenomenon known as gas buildup, explained Dr. Victor Mendez, the forensic pathologist responsible for the case. In caves with poor ventilation, heavier gases, like carbon dioxide, can accumulate in lower chambers. People who enter such environments may lose consciousness within minutes without realizing the danger. What made the case particularly tragic was that, according to the speleologists who later examined the cave, the gas buildup was concentrated only in the lower chamber where the bodies were found. Just a few meters above, near the entrance of the cave, the air was perfectly breathable. Paulo and Marina likely descended to explore the chamber, leaving Julia at the entrance for safety, explained Roberto Faria from the Brazilian Society of Speleology. It was a decision that ironically saved the child's life. By breathing the toxic air, they must have felt drowsy and eventually lost consciousness without realizing the danger. Death would have been quick and painless, similar to falling asleep. This scientific explanation perfectly aligned with Julia's testimony about her parents sleeping on the ground, and with the serene position in which the bodies were found. As for the mysterious man of the forest who helped Julia, his identity was revealed 3 weeks after the official closure of the case. Sebastião Pereira, a medicinal herb collector who lived in an isolated cabin in the region, approached the authorities after learning about the case details by chance. I found the girl crying, lost in the forest already near night, Sebastião reported. She was terrified, talking about her parents who had slept and wouldn't wake up. I tried to calm her and took her to the main path. I didn't want to get more involved because I live here without documents. I collect plants without permission. I was afraid I'd be blamed for something, but then I felt guilty. Sebastião's testimony confirmed Julia's version and clarified how she had managed to cover such a great distance. According to him, the girl was only 2 kilometers away from the cave when he found her disoriented, but she was instinctively following a water trail. With all the elements of the case clarified, The police inquiry was officially closed on April 17, 2019, with the conclusion of accidental death from asphyxiation due to natural toxic gases. That the impact of the case on the local community and environmental agencies was significant. The Paraná Environmental Institute implemented new safety measures on all trails in the Serra do Mar, including the detailed mapping of cave formations and signage for risk areas. The Itupava Trail received additional signs warning visitors not to deviate from marked paths. The academic community was also affected. The Federal University of Paraná, where Marina occasionally taught, established the Paulo and Marina Fund for research on safety in field explorations and for the proper cataloging of archaeological sites in the region. As for little Julia, she went to live with her maternal grandmother, Dona Helena, in Curitiba. According to psychological reports, the child showed remarkable resilience, although she still experienced occasional nightmares and separation anxiety. Continued therapy helped her process the trauma and understand that her parents hadn't abandoned her voluntarily. In an interview given 1 year after the tragedy, Dona Helena shared that Julia had stopped repeating the phrase, "They slept on the ground," replacing it with a more mature understanding of what had happened. Daddy and Mommy went to explore a special cave, and an accident happened. The cave where Paulo and Marina lost their lives was subsequently permanently closed by the environmental authorities. However, before the closure, a team of archaeologists confirmed the presence of ancient rock paintings on the cave walls, the discovery that Paulo had so eagerly sought. Ironically, his last act was to prove his theory about the existence of uncatalogued archaeological sites in the region. In December 2019, a small memorial was erected at the entrance of the Itupava Trail, with a plaque that serves both as a tribute and a warning in memory of Paulo and Marina, who left us in search of knowledge. May their story teach us to respect the mysteries of nature. The story of the couple who slept on the ground became a painful reminder of the hidden dangers in our search for the unknown. Like many tragedies, this one also led to positive changes, more rigorous safety protocols, greater awareness about the dangers of unauthorized explorations, and a renewed interest in preserving both the natural and archaeological heritage of the region. If you've watched until now, it's because you care about these cases that forever mark families. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until here," so I can get to know you and see who truly cares about the search for the truth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends and family who are also interested in mysterious disappearances, solved by science and the persistence of dedicated investigators. The story of Paulo, Marina, and little Julia reminds us that behind every mystery lies a truth waiting to be discovered, even if that truth is sometimes hidden deep beneath the earth.